Aya Khedairi joins me, Community Engagement Manager of the charity, the Migrants Rights Network. Aya, thank you very much for joining us this evening. What do you make of these measures?
Hi, good evening, Iain. Thanks so much for having me on tonight. As you said, it's been such a busy week. We've had so many announcements, and I think we're still struggling to process everything and, work through each proposal line by line. On the whole, we're seriously concerned about everything that we're hearing. It sounds like punitive precarity. I think these policies are going to fail on their own terms, but they're going to do a huge amount of harm in the meantime. As you mentioned, the idea of there being, the idea of belonging and worthiness being determined by wealth and by economic contribution is really, really concerning. And again, all of these responses don't feel like they have been, the sector and migrants and people who are living through these systems haven't been consulted at all. On the whole, I think, as you said, still ruling, still processing, but really, really concerned about the communities that this is going to impact and the harm that it's going to cause.
Well, we're not talking. We're talking about legal migrants here. We're not talking about people who've come here to claim asylum. People who maybe have settled status but aren't British nationals. Why? Explain to my listeners who may think, well, why should the British taxpayer have to pay benefits to 1.3 million people who are not British nationals?
I think the first thing to pick up on here is, just the idea of legal and illegal migrants to begin with. Obviously, you mentioned people seeking asylum, and there's all the policies that have come out earlier this week about that. But that also ignores the complexity of the immigration system and how easy it is to become irregularised. And the proposals that we have seen this week and this evening, including significantly increasing the time it takes to get indefinite leave to remain, is going to massively increase the possibility of people becoming irregularised in that process or losing their status or struggling to renew it. So again, it's not such a simple, just the way people have travelled here. It's also... No, but
the basic figures are, and I think they've only just been released, that in the last 12 months, every day, 472 legal migrants start to claim universal credit. That number has gone up by 6.7% in a year, which means that 1.3 million foreign nationals are receiving universal credit. How can we as a country, where cash is fairly sort of restricted at the moment, how can we justify that? How can you justify it to people who are paying their taxes and expect to get public services from them?
So again, I think this is just not abstracting the idea of a migrant. These are members of our communities. They're the children in our schools, they're our neighbours, they're our community members, they are the nurses treating you when you go to hospital. People have spent a huge amount of time and energy and resource to get to the UK. And they're part of our community. I think
But how can we... You're totally avoiding the question, if I may say so. I'm asking you to justify how the British taxpayer is expected to pay benefits to 1.3 million non-British citizens. No other country would do this, would they?
I don't have the information on each different country's welfare policies. But again, we're... we're talking. I don't know how to frame this without getting caught up in a framework, which I think is quite difficult. I think again, I'm just struggling with this idea that
Well, the point that I'm trying to make is that in the end, we would all love to live in a country that is very, very rich and would be able to afford to pay benefits to anybody that claimed them. We'd love to be in a big enough country that maybe could accept anyone that wants to come here. But the truth of the matter is we have limited resources. Unless we want to increase taxes way beyond where they are now, we're at the highest level since the Second World War, we simply cannot afford it. And therefore, any responsible government has got to look at the benefit system, look at who is claiming benefits, who is maybe most entitled to them, who are the people who are really, really struggling and need them, and then make a choice, because that's what all governments have to do. Every minister, every cabinet minister will be making choices within their own departments, and the Department of Work and Pensions under Pat McFadden is no different to anything else. There have to be priorities. And what you effectively seem to be saying is that non-foreign nationals should take precedence over British nationals.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I don't think it's an either or situation at all. But I think the idea of having a welfare state and the idea of having the possibility to belong and to be protected is an essential right that everybody should have, regardless of where they're from. There are a huge number of people already who have come to the UK who are subject to no recourse public funds conditions, and they cause a huge amount of harm. People like international students or people on skilled workers. Skilled workers, people on skilled worker visas. And the idea of having no access to protections regardless of the situation is really, really concerning.
So why should an international student have any protection at all?
I think so.
I'm sorry, Aya, if you can't answer a basic question like that, what on earth are you doing talking about this? Because you come out with all of these things saying, well, so-and-so should be entitled to something without any evidence to back it up. I think we better leave it there. Aya, thank you very much. That's Aya Khedairi, Community Engagement Manager of the charity, the Migrants Rights Network. I'm the last person in the world to suggest that there aren't people who come to this country who are not British citizens who do deserve to be helped through the benefit system. But I'm sorry, if you represent a body like the Migrants Rights Network, at least actually be prepared to explain your position.